Hi, my name is Alexandra Hudson, and thank you for being a part of the Civic Renaissance community. We're here in Nashville at the replica Parthenon, modeled after the original Parthenon in ancient Greece, and built by Pericles in Athens in the 4th century BC. And we know one of the famous, most famous works of oratory in human history is called Pericles Funeral Oration. And this is where Pericles, in the midst of the Peloponnesian War, in the middle of this long war between Athens and Sparta, a neighboring Greek city-state, Pericles brings a number of Athenians home, and he in front of all of Athens mourns the loss of Athenian life that had happened during one of the battles amidst the Peloponnesian War. And during the Peloponnesian War, he calls on his fellow Athenians. He says, feast your eyes on the Acropolis. Feast your eyes on what we stand for. The Acropolis stands for equality, democracy, all of these things that found an expression in early Athenian democracy. And he really calls his fellow Athenians to bring forth their best. And how to do that? By remembering their ideals and what they stand for. And that's why they're fighting. He's trying to give them a motivational speech that he said that the loss of your brothers and sons and husbands, it's worth it because we stand for freedom, and we will be a paragon to the rest of Greece and the rest of the world. History will remember us here. And actually, it's well known that Abraham Lincoln modeled his Gettysburg Address on aspects of Pericles Funeral Oration. So what's interesting though, we get this description, one of the most famous orations in human history, from Thucydides, an ancient Greek historian, his History of the Peloponnesian War. Immediately after Thucydides gives this the Pericles Funeral Oration, this depiction of Athens at its very best, Pericles saying, feast your eyes on the Acropolis, on the Parthenon. Right after that, we go to Thucydides, where he describes Athens at its very worst, an Athens ravaged by plague and death and destruction and despair. And where Thucydides describes Athenians turning on one another. He said there was no rule of law or justice anymore because people knew that they were all going to die. And it's a really low depiction of humanity and especially Athens. So we get this interesting contradistinction between Athens at its best, as embodied in Pericles' Funeral Oration, with Athens at its worst, beset by plague. And we can take insight from that today, because over the last year we've been encountering a historic pandemic where we're in America and the world. We've seen the very best of humanity, great benevolence, people rising to the occasion and helping their neighbors in need, and ingenuity and innovation, the speed with which we've come to have vaccines that are viable and can help us get out of this terrible moment we're in. Alongside the very worst, we're at a time of historic division and partisanship, and many people are wondering, if there's any reason to hope anymore. And I think that we can take inspiration from history, and we can be reminded of who we are at our very best, and we can honestly assess the very worst, both in our present, in the last year, and in our everyday, and also in our past. We can condemn the injustices in our past and in our present, while celebrating the good and the heroes of our history, and the heroes of today, our medical workers or our leaders that are helping us get out of this terrible situation. So I encourage you. I'm curious what you think. How are ways that we can better incorporate the injustice and examples of us at our very worst alongside of our very best? Curious what you think. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of Renaissance, a part of Civic Renaissance.